Well, I'm from Monahans, Texas. I graduated in 1997. At that age, I wasn't as mature as I should have been, and just by luck, I went to Angelo State. I had a lot of friends going here, and it was one of those things you didn't want to break up the old gang. So I said, well, I'm going to go to San Angelo, And when I got here, I was so happy. And the thing I liked about San Angelo, and I still like about it, is there's enough to do, but it's not overwhelming. And it's not a small town where people gossip about everybody. I really enjoyed the faculty. It was easy to get around. Still, the nicest people I've met are in San Angelo. So, driving here was very sad. I was like, oh, I remember the good old days. But it was essentially, at first, my friends were going, I'll go along with them. I got lucky.
So, hello everyone. Like Professor Clark said, I graduated here 10 years ago. And I'm so ashamed of myself. I lived here 5 years, and I still missed my exit to be here before work. I wasn't proud of myself. But today I'm going to show you some of my work, how it's progressed, some of the hurdles I've had to go through, and I will talk about, when you're in school, everything's fun, you're partying, you're doing art stuff, and then you see the graduation day coming, and you pee your pants. You get nervous, right? So I'm going to talk about just how you can get over that hurdle, how you can get into galleries, how you can get into a teaching job, applying for grad school. And I'll try not to make it too academic. I'm going to break it down like I'm talking to you, like we're friends, because a lot of the students I teach now have the same worries. I had the very same worries as everyone else. But I will let you know that you can get a job in the art field. That's a lie that people, you tell people you're an art major, oh, you're going to be mowing lawns or something. You can get an art job. It's just you have to stand out above everybody else. And the reason I've gotten into galleries and the shows I've been in and teaching is not, I don't think it's because I'm a great artist, because I just show up on time, I'm dependable, I'm not a jerk, I have all my ducks in a row, my portfolio looks decent. So if you can at least not be a jerk, you'll be ahead of most people. And I say that not in a joking way, but you get a lot of jerks in art. I've organized a show in Fort Worth, and there's a lot of people I think their work is stupendous, but they're the type of people you're going to punch in the face. And you don't want to deal with it. You don't know if they're going to be in on time. They're going to demand more than 50% that the gallery takes, things like that. So I call a lot of my friends because I knew they were dependent. So, and that took me a while to get responsible and dependable. I wasn't always that way. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. So this is where I grew up in Monahans. Anybody know Monahans? Raise your hand. Yeah. All right, good. The last one person clapped and I said, come on, tell me clap. But, there's this stigma when you say from a small town it's boring. You can hear songs about it, old boring town. I had kind of the opposite. I'm actually more bored living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I think there's a reason, like, a lot of bands came out of Liverpool, like the Beatles, or like Seattle, kind of had a music scene going for a while. Is when you have nothing to do, it forces you to be creative, and you and your friends get together and kind of create your own scene. So it had the opposite effect on me. I actually loved going up there. I feel sorry for a lot of my second cousins in the Metroplex because I think they miss out on organizing a football game in the street, or 20 people getting on their bikes and riding around. Doing with, my parents, it was hard to tell everything. When I was a child, that's when MTV's public they actually showed music videos. Now it's Jersey Shore, 9-year-old pregnant show, whatever that is. 18-year-old, whatever. They actually showed videos. So my friends and I, we would just sit there, and it was cool because it's an oil field town. So as you used to see, these were burly guys, Copenhagen wings in their pants, chest hair coming out of their shirt. And then I'd see like Prince or Adam Ant or even Michael Jackson. These are weird kind of artsy people. I remember being 5 years old and I was thinking to myself, I want to be Boy George for being skeleton and graphics. And then I thought, well, maybe I would be like a school. So I thought I'd second. Luckily, growing up in the 80s, they had great cartoons. I was talking to a professor I had in Denton, and I was just telling him how he's similar, a little bit older than me, but I was saying how much I love the cartoons in the 80s. And he goes, the reason they were great was everybody's high in cola. I never thought about it when I was a kid, but everything was just so bizarre. Now cartoons are still a little more bizarre, but even the movies like Gremlins, Back to the Future, they were so odd to me. Ghostbusters. I remember being a child, it was continuously, every weekend it was a weird, bizarre, surreal movie coming out. And eventually that kind of just seeped into my brain. At the time, when I was real young, I would also get a lot of positive feedback from people. Because in my hands, it's all about football. If you're great at football, you the team. But luckily, I found out when I draw a picture and win an art show or something, I get a lot of positive reinforcement. So, in a way, that because I was good at art, it kind of kept me from getting beat up. Because, anybody knows that goes to school, you can get beat up for any reason. There's a lot of people respecting you. And I think growing up in the Hispanic community too, Hispanics really love the arts. And that's a big thing. So it helped me out in that respect too. So I would just continuously draw because it got me a lot of positive feedback. And this is one I did right before I started the kind of current body I'm working on. But this is just where I grab a sheet of paper and I start doodling. I don't do any underlying pencil drawings or anything. I just work on the composition as I go. And I'll even do parts that I know design-wise are horrible, but I'll try to fix it on the other side. I try to constantly challenge myself. So I know there's some rules like Professor Clark told me, like don't crop the corners and things like that. On a lot of my pieces, I'll crop the corner just to kind of give myself a headache. I was telling the design class I was speaking to earlier, art's not a close act. I don't take anything like that. If I don't do art, I start feeling bad about myself. So this is kind of my crossword puzzle. And this is my thing to continuously work on if I'm going to do. But I would do work like this, and then God bless Professor Apodaca, but he's probably one of the hardest teachers I've ever had. I never told Apodaca this, but I would take 2 Tylenol before every class. I was used to, when I was in high school, the art teacher did not care. She just showed up. I was in art freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, and you would think you would progress to different things. All 4 years would be calisthenics, and then we did one like ceramic piece. It was a cakewalk. My friends and I would play paper football. Half the class would make bombs. The professor had no clue. She'd be like, "Why does this vase have another opening?" So when I went to college here at Angelo, I was like, "Oh, it's great. I've been hanging out." And then I took off the doctor's class. I said, "Oh, no, not good." It was great because in my hometown, I was hands down the best artist. So when I came to college, I said, "Oh, they're getting ready for me." And then when I showed up at college, everybody's good. Okay, I'm picturing the movies where they carry you into class. I got to class, everybody's good. So I had to step my game up a little as well. And Professor Clark was here also. They made me challenge myself. And without that, I'd probably be at the same level I was in '97 when I graduated high school. Professor Van Clark, hands down. Yeah, I think a lot of it was I was really into music, but like I knew all about the Beatles and Prince, and he would tell me real progressive stuff to look up. Like it was before the internet, so I would say, "Oh, I like so-and-so. Oh, look up this artist." This was before all music would give you links. So it helped me in my art to expand. Same way with art. He would show me artists. He'd see some of my drawings. "Hey, look at this person." And I'm the type, I'm always on a quest to learn something. I hate just staring at a wall. I'll watch the Discovery Channel. I'll read something. So he was my, probably one of my biggest art influences, if not the biggest, I would say. Yeah, definitely the biggest. So this is a project I had, and I think, I want to say it's like 2.5 by 3.5 feet. What we had to do is work from a photograph and grid it, but this is a drawing I did of my brother in graphite, and I think it took me about 50 hours. And I love my brother, but at the end of this, looking at his face, I didn't want to talk to him. I got to saying this guy. And it got to the point as well that I was like, why are we even doing this? And can we just take a photo and get the same thing? And Apodaca told me something I'll never forget, that I always try to draw from what's in my mind. He said, how are you going to draw what you see in your mind if you can't draw what you see out here? I said, that's a good point. So doing art like this, that this is something that actually exists, helped me kind of what's visualized in my brain get onto paper. Because before that, it was just kind of saying the same level. And it helped me too get kind of my muscle memory down, get the values, really pay attention to what's going on. So in the long run, it turned out really well. And then I could incorporate it into my cartoon. And this is one of the last cartoonish pieces I did. I was telling a class earlier, have you ever just like been hanging out with someone for a long time and then one day you're like, I hate this person. But there's no real reason. They're just there, I cannot stand this person. That happened to me with cartoons. One day I was doing a cartoon, I said, I can't do this anymore. Because I realized I don't even really like cartoons. It was still that young thing where I was getting, you know, a lot of feedback, people loved it. But I don't watch anime. I never really got to The Simpsons, South Park. I like Beavis and Butthead, huge fan of that. But I wouldn't even consider that a standard cartoon. But I realized that the reason I like cartoons is I like the energy that came off of them. I like the bold colors, the shapes, the playful nature in it. But it got to the point as well, like I'm drawing Santa Claus with a hot dog on his head. You can't get a dance in college doing stuff like that. Okay, no girls will talk to you if you draw Santa Claus with a hot dog. It's just not happening. And it's one of those things I wanted to challenge myself. I was drawing the same characters over and over again, so I moved on. And once I got past the classes that I knew a lot about, like I knew what drawing was, I knew a little bit about ceramics. I took printmaking with Professor Clark. I had no clue what printmaking was. I remember in grade school, like cutting up potatoes, like cutting up a star and doing a stamp like that, and I thought, well, that's printmaking. And, you know, I didn't know anything. We didn't have any museums in my hands. I thought Warhol hand-painted all of these. I thought he was a man. Okay, I'd see the Campbell soup cans, I'd see the Marilyn Monroes, the Elvises, and I'd say, this guy's amazing. And then Clark said, oh no, this is a screen printing. He had a stencil that he just layered these over and over again. I said, I want to do that. Oh, that's great. Another reason, this is so unpopular when I say this in front of printmakers, the reason I love printmaking is you can have more than one of the same thing. I would always hate it when I would do a drawing and give it to someone or something would spill on it because I grew an emotional attachment to that art. You know, if I had 10 of the same print, I'd give it to anybody. Mailman, come by, you want a print here? I don't care what that is. It's great because nobody else knows a lot about printmaking. Meanwhile, I got 8 in the drawer. So I could say a real academic thing. I love the process and all this. I just love having a lot of the same things. It's just my nature. I love collecting things. I love going to an antique mall and getting a lot of stuff. I'm not a minimalist by any means. So I did a lot of screen printing here at Angelo, but the reason I'm not showing it is because I was too overwhelmed by my influences. Like you would look at the work I did and say, oh, okay, that's somebody ripping off Andy Warhol or Robert Rauschenberg. I didn't have my own voice. So I could show you some stuff, but it would be like, okay, these are rip-off. I didn't know how to incorporate the technique really with what I was doing, like in drawing and doodling. So when I started to practice a little more, and I was working more with kind of the cartoon shapes, but a little more melted, like I would disguise my influences a little better, I could do screen prints like this. And this is one of the, kind of the middle period when I was in grad school. And this one, before this I was doing, anybody, who's taking printmaking? Raise your hand. I'll try not to talk over the room. When you're doing printmaking, you work in a series of layers. And usually each layer that I work on takes me about an hour to block out the screen and stuff. This one has about 84 layers, I would say. So yeah. And the reason I would do it is because I hated a lot, this is horrible to say, I hated a lot of my fellow classmates and I just wanted to embarrass them and critique. It wasn't even because I wanted a good portfolio or anything else. I hear them talk, I did print for 10 layers. So, shut this guy up. myself I'd give it a 7. I've done better, I think. But I had one print where at 70 layers, it was my masterpiece. It was like my Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, I am not topping this, but I was at 70. I said, I'm almost 100. I'm going to go for 100. I got to 100. It was the biggest polish I've ever seen. It was horrible. So I kept trying to fix it, and eventually I got to 177 layers, and I just put it in the drawer. I cut it up and I put collage, but it was a hot mess. But I wish I would take a picture. At 70, it was my masterpiece. But trying to, show off and not really work on the composition and design got me. So now I'll do prints that average about, I'd say, 30 to 40 layers. Just my love of color, and I like things that are very condensed. I like to add a lot of layers. And screen printing is fun for me as well. I like the physical aspect. I have no muscles except in my back. Like it's a string beam, and my back looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Very weirdly. Here's another piece that I did. This one I got a lot of shows. People really like this one. And this is one of the very last pieces that I put recognizable imagery in. But I was looking at a lot of album art, and I'm a huge Prince fan. I was talking about Prince earlier. He has an album that he did right after Purple Rain called Around the World in a Day. Raspberry Beret on it. But the album cover is amazing. It's kind of all these shapes put together and has a landscape feel. So this is me trying to recreate that. You can see I still put a little boat in there, and a little red monster. There's a goat and a monkey. But this one was probably, I'm pretty sure this is the last one I said, I'm just going to go for a non-representation of work like this. So here's one I did very recently. I would say this is from maybe 2 or 3 months ago. This one was actually in the show. And this is a similar thing. I started with prints like this with no plan. I would just print a layer, similar to what I was doing with the drawing that I showed the very first slide. Print another layer. Sometimes it'd be too left heavy. I'd have to print another color here. And I just keep working back and forth. And I think this one has about 60 layers. And I wish there's some areas, I'm always critiquing myself. I think another reason I'm always working on stuff is I'm never satisfied. So I wish I could come back. I need to read some of these areas because it gets a little too muddy. But this was a series I was doing where I was putting birds in there, kind of the abstract version of the bird. I was going to the Fort Worth Zoo a lot, taking photos. Just for composition reasons, I love going to the zoo and the antique mall, just taking weird photos, maybe moving my iPhone while I take them and get it smeared together. That's all my iPhone is. It's pictures of my cat and just bird photos. Here's another one, somewhat similar. This one was actually, you always hear people talk, this work was inspired by my grandmother, scale of the mountain music. This was inspired by a couch I saw on TV. It had these weird stains and these weird buttons on it. It's like one of those you would never sit in unless it was dipped in boiling water. So it was real cool, real 70s, so I took a photo of it and tried to do an abstract version. And this one I got to a pretty good show in Dallas. People like this one. And here's some where I took some photos at the antique mall, like some antique pieces of glass, pixelated and burned into a screen, similar to what Warhol did with the Marilyn Monroe's. And same thing with this piece. This was one where I was trying to tone down my colors a little bit. I said, I'm going to I was listening to a lot of golf music, and I was trying to get to this mode of just gray and everything's green and blue, and eventually I put color in that. That's, challenging myself with color is the thing I'm going to work on in my next series because I just love black colors. I think to challenge myself, I'm going to tone it down a little bit. But at first it had a lot of grays and I said, a little yellow. I'm going to put a little red, but it went back. It's still a little toned down, but it's another one I'm not super happy with. I wish I would have stuck to my guns. And here is the last screen that I did. I think this is the show. I think I finished this one really trees. But this is one I was really trying to get like a claustrophobic composition. And I was also trying to get mini screen prints mixed with these prints. You can see that little square on the left side, and then a kind of amboy shape with the red and pink. I was just trying to make a hot mess. no empty space, layers that really don't fit together like this, but overlap. But this is probably my favorite one I've done, just because I had a vision in my mind, and it came pretty close. And I'm happy that I'll never get the vision. I have these beautiful compositions, and I know they'll never be as beautiful on paper, but that's the piece of relation art.
Well, if I could, I'd be a pro basketball player. But being 5'10" and slow and no jumping ability, it's kind of hard to do. I love sports, but I wanted to do something that when I'm 80, I still don't want to retire. I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, I can't wait to retire. I want to do something like literally I die at work. I don't want to retire and just sit around. And I took art classes when I was younger, and I had a teacher named Miss Powers who said, you could do art to the day you die. So that's what I want to do. And I think I had a natural skill for it. In the small town, I really didn't know any better. I was better than everybody. But it wasn't because I was so good. Everybody else was just kind of that bad. So I think it kind of gave me a cockiness and made me feel proud of something. Since I wasn't good at sports, it gave me something I could be best at, and it kind of helped my self-esteem, I would say. And I wanted to teach as well, because, well, that's on camera. I won't say, but maybe some of the teachers I had when I was younger didn't put forth a lot of effort, and I kind of thought of it later. They could have really helped me out. So I wanted to be the teacher that people could ask questions. I could try to help mold them into great artists, give them encouragement.
So there's my cat, Professor Pinknose. The photo doesn't do him justice. He weighs 23 pounds. Very fat. He's like Martin. He's allergic fat. He's not at the studio later. But the last semester I was here, I was having elbow problems, and I wound up having 4 surgeries on both elbows. I had to move my ulnar nerve out of the groove and fit into the muscle. A lot of major league pitchers get that surgery. But essentially, it's like you hit your funny bone nonstop. I had that feeling for a year and a half. So I had to kind of cut back on screen cleaning. I had the surgery, everything went well, and I was got back to my normal routine. And I started screen printing again, and my arm started to deteriorate. And I caught it early this time. So I said, well, let me work on some drawings in the meantime. Now, I believe it was a blessing in disguise, because taking a break from that and just working on drawing, get back to my first love, I think it's helped my screen prints, because I was getting used to function. But I use this as a reference of how large I was working on these. There's a place, and there's Mecca, people pray to Mecca. I pray to paper arts and dies. They have so much paper in my room. So I went to the lady at the counter, and she goes, how can I help you? Before she even finished, I said, I need a big sheet of paper. I said, I want one I can barely fit in my car. So I got this piece, and Pink Rose was working on it. Here's kind of another shot. I don't spend money on cars and clothes, but if I see a marker I don't have, I have to. Some people have their shoes, like new LeBrons or Kanye West sneakers. You gotta have. I know which one. There's a certain orange I've never seen. I don't care if I'm broke with ones. So this is one that's in progress. This one's about a third done, and this is probably about 50 hours of work. And this one was in a show in Fort Worth and got a lot of good reception from it. The great thing about being in art shows is it leads to other art shows without you knowing about it. I've had friends say, hey, be in this art show I'm organizing. I was going to go to it. Maybe 3 people did show up, but one of them ran a gallery in Dallas and didn't show up. So I tell people, never neglect an opportunity. The Oasis magazine you were talking about, that's on my resume. Any show that was ever here is on my resume. You want your resume to look like the New Testament. You want people to have back problems when you have to go. A lot of people get nervous. You're talking about graduating. Oh, my resume's horrible. Beat that sucker up. If there's an opportunity to gain something, enter it. I don't care what it is. Because when you get to the point where you want to apply for grad school, yes, your portfolio does matter, your artwork, but so does your resume. So whatever you can get on there is very, very important. I'd say throw that sucker up. The worst feeling, and I've seen this, is people's resume is their name and address, and that's it. I'm like, ooh, should have had something. So here's the final piece of one. This one's about 35 by 45 inches, I would say. And I try in my new work, this one's about 2 years old, but it's still kind of the same period. I would listen to a certain genre of music and I would try to visualize it. So this was all 80s new wave. It was a lot of Culture Club, Human League. The cheesier the synthesizers were, the more I would listen to it. I wanted the bright colors and kind of the feelings I got as a child listening to that music. But it was difficult not to do recognizable imagery with it because a lot of things I associate with that time period. So some of this, I would start the drawing with my offhand, my left hand, and clean it up with my right hand. And then here's another one. And this one, I would say, took me a month straight. I'd say 40 hours a week I was working on it. But it defeated the purpose. You know, I said my elbows were hurting. I said, well, I'm not gonna screen print. Now my wrists are starting to hurt. So there you go. You know, you can't win as an artist if you have elbow problems. But this one was in art shows well and did really good. Here's a real close-up of it. I was trying at this time also to get my muscle memory down really well with drawing. And it didn't really help my drawing skills, but you know the game Operation? I'm like the LeBron James of Operation. If there's an Operation tournament somewhere, I'm going to enter it. My hands are so still now and steady from just practicing things like this. And it has helped me a little bit with screen printing, things like that, especially when I'm blocking out a screen, my hand can stay real still, especially. So once I went to the gym and I was doing all the stuff the physical therapist told me to do. That's another thing. A long time ago, the physical therapist would tell me to do something. I was like, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. It works. Like the exercise they told me to do, I said, oh, I guess this guy knows what he's talking about. It actually helped. So if the physical therapist tells you to do something as stupid as it sounds, do it. It did help. So when I started feeling a little bit better, and I felt like I was kind of tired of drawing, I said, well, I'm going to try something I've never done really, which is collaging. So every time I print an edition, let's say I have an edition of 10, I'll print like 5 extra just to cut up in collage. So this is a piece, this is all screen printed pieces, collaged with hand drawing. And you can kind of see in the background, I colored it a little bit, but I was also working on patterns. I was trying to work the other side of my brain a little bit, try to do something that repeated itself. But eventually it looked too clean and mathematical, so I said I'm going to put some shapes on it and break it up. But this is one of the first pieces that I'm really going for a big assault. I had an art show and I saw these 2 girls, really cute girls, looking at my piece. And we were chatting back and forth. I said, oh man, this is cool. I'll go there and talk to them. You know? So it was a real crowded place, real noisy. And so I cannot hear well because there's a lot of outside noise, so they're just chatting with me. These girls are in love with me. They're looking at my art, so I'm going to go up there and talk to them. So I don't beeline to them. I kind of do like, you know, look at each work. So as soon as I could hear one girl say to the other, she said, this guy's got problems. That's what they were talking about, how many psychological problems I had. I just kind of looked at it like, I didn't know who it was. But it was good. Because we know this, we're all artists. You can spot someone that has no idea what art is. When they didn't really care for my piece, it was like the greatest compliment. It made me feel really good about myself. My friend Harrison was there with me. I told him what they said. Oh, that's great. So it really is great. So it visually assaulted their eyes. That's what I was going for. Here's another piece. You can still kind of see the background where I was doing the pattern. But this is all collaged, screen print, mixed with colored pencil, marker. And through the collages, I started to do drawings that were kind of based off of that. And I was still working on doing my shading, things like that I learned in orthodox class. And then here's one of my most recent pieces. It's like recent pieces. One of my recent pieces. my West Texas accent is coming out. Recent pieces where I would actually screen print on the paper and draw on top of it, mixed with collage. And I was in an art show in Denton, and it just came down, so I never got this piece back. A lot of the artists' names I recognize. You know, in art school, you recognize people's names, and it's all pretentious artists. Okay, like Orange represents my childhood friends. That stuff drives me crazy. So I said, I'm going to do Lisa Frank, In Your Face, you know. And I did the piece, and there was something missing, like it wasn't cheesy enough. I was going for really lowbrow. So I babysit my little cousins a lot, and I bought them this reflective stickers. You know, you go like that, and it's just rainbow. And I was looking at them looking, and I said, well, that ain't for real girl, that's for third floor men. So I went to Hobby Lobby, and I bought them all. It's one of those things that nobody else thinks of it, so I bought all of it. But I cut out that shape. It didn't show all this photograph, but you know, in the gallery it showed them like this. And it was so good because a lot of the work was just like, it was pretentious. That's the best way I think of it. And then the light hit mine, and it was just so cheesy, gold, you know, disco, you know. So.
This sounds so cheesy and like rehearsed, but I get more enjoyment out of my students doing great art than if I do a piece I'm real happy about. Because I think like my family's real supportive, like we always help each other. And I've noticed a lot of people don't have that support. So even if I'm one person that could help somebody create something or, you know, make them feel good about themselves, it's an ego thing for me. I don't want to sound like Mother Teresa, like, oh, I'm helping the world, but it makes me feel good and it makes someone else feel good.
The first one I'm going to show is a screen print by a student, same guy I was talking about earlier, named Harrison Busey. Before he did this genre, I kind of knew him. He was in an art class, and I would kind of sit down on it and listen to people talk. And there was a row of people talking about their art. One was like, yes, mine is about you know, growing up in a harsh environment, you know, my parents weren't there for me. You know, the next person was, you know, I'm constantly depressed or sad or blah, blah. So Harrison came up and goes, mine's about when I get drunk and throw up everywhere. He said that, I'm friends with this guy. And he's 6'5", but he has a Morrissey pompadour that makes him like Dirk Nowitzki type. He wears leather jackets and all that. He's a real cool guy, but when he took screen printing with me, he was saying, you know, I'm going to do like these zombie things mixed with 1940s ads, and I want to make that's John Candy. That's a drawing of John Candy. I want to make John Candy look like a new wave artist. So this is one that I think he's one of my better students. He probably spent about 40 hours on this. But I'm going to show a little bit of everything. Like this is kind of cartoonish work. And then I had a student named Candace Giacomo, great artist, Candace Giacomo. And this is one she did, a screen print. I think this is about 20 layers. And she would just kind of paint by numbers thing. She would even mix out the paints and kind of put it next to like one of the oil paintings and see if it matched. She did it real precise. But what's great about teaching also is teaching printmaking is you know, students do stuff. They say, oh, thanks, Professor Palmer, here, have a print. So that's cool. That didn't happen in a lot of classes, so I have one of these. And then this is another student I had that looked real abstract. This is actually probably my favorite print the student ever did. I like the color choices of his mass energy. And this is one of my students named Christine Joy Malari. Her family's from the Philippines. She was trying to recreate some Philippine, what is the word for Filipino? Filipino, thank you. You know Filipino. Filipino fairy tales. I heard, you know, grandparents would tell it. I'm real happy with Christine Joy as well. If you ever look at inks and they say gambling ink, she got a really good job with them, and she tours the country and tells people about gambling ink. So she's another one that has a great art career. Harrison works in New York City. He works for a company that prints like flyers for bands. I think it was Grizzly Bear, some other kind of hit bands will ask the company he works for to design tour posters. So he has a job in the arts as well. And a lot of this isn't so much that they're great artists, they're just hard workers. They apply for everything. And this is another one. This is my mother didn't hug me enough art. The cool thing about this artist, guy named Thomas Rogers, is he works in Denton at a place called Pan Nectar, and he designs shirts for bands. And Denton has a really hot music scene. So he's constantly, that's his full-time job, designing T-shirts. And you can see this isn't T-shirts for like some country alternative band. It's like these death metal guys, sacrifice goods, This is one of my favorites because it looks like a drawing. You mixed in with stippling and things like that. You look at his work, and if I taught high school and saw this, I'd say, "Hey, this guy would seem too fancy." But in reality, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And this is one of my current students, a guy named Roy Martinez. Roy is one of the first students I've had that was openly gay. And I was real proud that he decided to do some artwork that's based on that. I think a lot of people are scared, especially in the Metroplex. Texas isn't the most open-minded state. So he's doing kind of a series on gay legends. And a lot of his work has to do with Hispanic culture and things like that, how he wasn't accepted in the Hispanic community. But he blends it together really well, and now he prints shirts. There's one of Aaliyah, Selena, Amy Winehouse. These things sell at pockets. I've had them for 3 semesters. In the first semester, he came in making homeless. Now that he's making money, he's like, Gucci out. We ain't Gucci, but he's selling these online. So I was real happy about that as well. And I like the way he presented it too. But he's still my student. It's great also having students like this because it makes my teaching portfolio really good. It's the same thing I went back to in high school when I was trying to be the best. When I'm teaching in the Metroplex and there's other people teaching programming, I want my class to be the best. And it is because I want my students to succeed, but it's ego. So luckily I've had some good students that look really hard.
I always hear people say they have a guilty pleasure. I always hear people say, "Oh, my guilty pleasure is," I don't have a guilty pleasure. I don't feel ashamed or guilty of anything. I remember in high school, everybody's listening to Pantera and Nine Inch Nails, and I did too, but I listened to Ace of Base. In Vogue, I'd be driving around, rednecks driving by in their truck, I'd be listening to In Vogue. I never felt guilty about it. So I never feel like, oh, if I do all these bright colors, people are going to think that's too feminine, or I don't care. I have no guilty pleasures. And I think a lot of people are trying too hard to look cool. I know a lot of great artists that just want to do something that's cool and they'll fit in with the crowd. A lot of my shows, it's just maybe my work stands out because it's so bright and so colorful. And I would say that's it. I just have no guilty pleasures.
Is there any questions on any of this so far?
What kind of stencil process? Do you have alternative stenciling? Is it more
Yes.
film or?
What I use is you can buy, Speedball makes it. It's essentially liquid clay. You ever use that? You use that. It's called screen coating. But it's a liquid clay, and they use some kind of binding agent in it, and you paint, get a paintbrush and you block out the screen. Wherever you put the block out, ink goes through the other parts. It's kind of confusing, but it's great because you don't have to have a light table. Like I use the sun for a light table. I could use the schools, but I just use the sun for mine. Sometimes when it's raining outside, I just use that clay block out. I just block out the screen, then you just clean it with a simple green or any household cleaner and just scrub it out. It sprays out easily. I like it too because I feel real comfortable with the paintbrush.
You don't do so much photo ball.
I'd say for every 20 layers, maybe one photo. Yeah, the only reason I use it is if I want to smell it. Any other questions? Yes, sir. My major was printmaking here. And then when I went to UNT, I got my master's. Yes, ma'am.
Are you a professor at UNT?
Part-time.
That's
I
what I'm
teach.
from,
Okay, yeah, I teach drawing in the fall. UNT, they have a lot of printmaking and grad students that go through, so I don't teach a lot of printmaking classes there unless they need me, but I'm always in the fall. It's one of those things. UNT a great art school. There are so many people that attend there that their enrollment numbers are always higher than they think. So they call me out. Please tell me you can teach drawing. So I go, "Look, you can help me. I'll show up. I'll teach you." And I think same way with San Angelo, being around artists and knowing that art is a competitive field, I would suggest if there's any art club, join it. I wasn't, as in UNT I was involved in everything. In San Angelo I wish I was a little more involved. I wish I would kind of broken out of my shell. Because the more artists you know, it's better for your career. You know, your friend, I have a friend, Art Penguin, he's at the Dallas Contemporary, huge show. He's a friend of mine. And it's not one of those things like, oh, how dare Art have this show? Oh, I'm so pissed. Yes, I know this guy. You know, he might get on his coattails. You know, that's great. So any art club you can join, I would even suggest, my friends and I are going to do this, start a Tumblr, and it's just all your friends' artwork. Give everybody the password, because you have greater strength in numbers. Every professor club I have, I teach in Dallas, Fort Worth, and UNT, I never had to apply for anything like that. There was somebody said, oh, Adam Palmer, he shows up on time. That's all they did. Oh, Adam Palmer, what they do? I know Adam Palmer's good, you know, they kind of close on him. So I would really suggest that. Don't be the artist in the corner, nobody understands. Be that person. Really involved. Anything else? Yes. It's for Dallas County. It's right in the middle of Dallas. It's for Dallas County. Yes. Dallas County has a bunch of different schools, but this one's called Centro, the center. But it's right. The tallest building in Dallas is the Bank of America. It's right by that. And it's my favorite place to teach. I absolutely love that place. I love it because it's a mix of everything. Like there's an equal number of every race, every gender. I have 19-year-olds. I have a student that's 80. Okay, this is what I love. It's like the UN and Washington. Yes.
What's your number?
I haven't started the Tumblr yet, but it's going to be Pinata Repair. Like the name of my show is that. It's going to be Pinata Repair. We had one for a while. We took it down because, like I showed the artwork of the skull with arrows. And a lot of people I went to school with like, oh man, you know. So my friends and I started working on perfume boards just because it was so feminine and stuff. But we took that one down because we always got lazy. You know, gung ho for something. And I haven't really put anything on in years. We just shut it down. But we're really going to get serious with the we already have a 7 for the Chino College. We'll wait till all kind of the piece of it. We want it to be great. Anything else? Yes.
So obviously the students work at the shows, how many years of coverage have they had? Like,
Oh, that's all first. This guy's been in. Oops. Uh-oh. First of all, I don't teach graphic design. These are all first year, except for the guy Roy who did like the Selena. I'll tell you a quick story about Selena. The most popular girl in my school was doing Selena Reagan. All the guys, some of the girls like her too. All the guys. She was real nice, very beautiful. And one day, someone came up to me, "Are you Selena guys?" I said, "Did you check?" I said, "This guy shot Selena." And then we called it small town. No, it's not shot Selena. We have a fan club. I said, "I know Selena's popular. She got no fan." And I said, "What's Selena's thing?" I was still kind of upset because Selena was big, especially in my time. Selena got shot. But that's all I said. This is the first year guy, and so this is Candace. It's the only time she took my name with me. And a lot of this is UNT creates a very competitive environment. So I'm not sure. There's some of these I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassing in my class. I'm ashamed. Some of these are just garbage. These are the cream of the crop. They're not all like this. I've had some students like, I'm doing art. There's no drive. There's no skill. These are definitely all stars. But these are all first year. This is this girl named Sloan. This is her first screen print ever. And I'm lying. Christine Joy, this is her second year. Okay. Second semester. Anything else? All right. Thank you, I appreciate it.
I would say the first show I made was at 500X in Dallas. And that was the first time I really entered a show that had a lot of people and I made it. I would say that one because just by luck, a few of my friends made that show as well. And previous to that, I had entered 4 art shows, nothing. And I was kind of defeated. And then after that, I got 4 straight. So it helped build my confidence a little bit because I was feeling bad about myself. And it was so crowded in that place, you'd get a chance to hear people talk about your works. Nobody's, you can still go to galleries, nobody knows. The artist could be your favorite artist, you don't recognize the person. So it was good to hear people's honest feedback on my work. And it made me happy just people seeing my art that normally wouldn't see it. It made me happy normally wouldn't see it. This sounds crazy, but this is for anything. Being from a small oil field town, everybody's a hard worker. Like my dad, I rarely saw him. He worked 60 hours a week. My mom worked at the hospital. I think you just have to work hard. If you're lazy, I don't care what it is. I don't think you're going to succeed. A lot of people want to hit the art lotto. If you're not out there entering shows, if you're not constantly practicing, organizing shows, being a positive person around other people, you're not going to make it. You hear every once in a while of just somebody gets discovered by accident, but it's hard work. Every artist I went to grad school with that's successful, the common denominator is hard work. It's not the style they're doing or what they look like, it's hard work. And I would also say don't be too optimistic and don't be too pessimistic. Just have a realistic expectation. Maybe I'll get in the show, maybe I won't. If I do, cool. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. There's other stuff coming up. And a lot of artists I know that don't show a lot and never really got to what they wanted to do, they just gave up. It's one of those things like the tortoise beat the hare. It's the same story. It's same. 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 It's same.